Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. Thought I'd do a bit of a collection update video here today. Wanted to share with you guys my top 8 favorite rock and metal box sets in my collection. First and foremost, what makes a good box set? You know, it's not necessarily about the add-ins like tour books or, guitar picks, anything like that for me, but rather the music itself. Is the box set offering me, the listener, anything new or rare, hard to find, maybe stuff I haven't heard before, that I would want to spend my money on, and so I think I picked 8 here that really offer something cool and unique that, fans of these bands would enjoy. And I've been talking a lot about box sets over the past month on the channel, and the truth is, when it comes to box set releases, I'm really not a hard guy to please. I just don't want to spend my money on, a box set of all music I already own, plus like a poster or a replica backstage pass. To me, that's lazy, especially considering, the depths of the vaults of music most of these bands just have lying around. That being said, let's get started here at number 8. I'm going to go with Rock and Roll Saviors, The Early Years by Twisted Sister. 3 absolutely killer live albums here released by one of the best live touring bands in metal history, Twisted Sister, all from earlier years in their career, before their massive commercial breakthrough with Stay Hungry in 1984. This release contains full sets from these 3 shows here. You have live in 1979 at a Detroit nightclub, live at Hammerheads in 1980, and live at Donington in 1983. The silver lining of having such a massive album like Stay Hungry is it becomes the one thing people know you best for, and the band's early work remains very underrated, in my opinion, but these shows really reflect that and how great that early stuff is, especially the 1979 club show in Detroit, a great glimpse into the early, non-stop touring years of Twisted Sister. And some people forget, before they made it big with Stay Hungry, they were one of the hardest working club bands, in metal for nearly a decade, so thought it'd be a good fit here on this list. 3 awesome live albums from the earlier years of Twisted Sister. Gotta go with Rock and Roll Saviors at number 8 to get us started. Coming in at number 7, I'm gonna go with Backtracks and Bonfire by ACDC. Now, these are 2 separate releases, but I always thought they kind of complemented each other really well, and so I wanted to talk about them both here, as I feel like both, feature a whole bunch of diamond in the rough rarities, both studio and live, that any AC/DC fan would love. Starting off here with Backtracks, which I really enjoy. It has an incredible selection of rare studio tracks and B-sides like Fling Thing, Crabsity in Blue, Rock in Peace. Let's see what else is on here. Carry Me Home, Cold Hearted Man, Snake Eye, Cyberspace, awesome stuff like that. Also includes live rarities, including some stuff from the Flick of the Switch tour from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. So I love that album, love that tour, and especially that show. So really cool to have some Flick of the Switch live tracks included here as well. Really dig that. And then, of course, you have Bonfire. This was released, it's a 5-disc box set here, released as a tribute to Bon Scott. It includes the 2-disc soundtrack from the film Let There Be Rock, a live recording of the Atlantic Records Studio in New York concert, some previously unreleased early material on disc 4 entitled Vaults, and a remastered version of the 1980 album Back in Black. And now I believe Back in Black was included here, and don't quote me on this, I could be wrong, just to get the Bon Scott estate some of that Back in Black money. But what I really enjoy on Bonfire is Vaults in particular, disc 4, like I said, which includes some great early versions, what would become classic AC/DC songs. You have Dirty Eyes, which would become Whole Lotta Rosie. The original version of If You Want Blood, You Got It, the first recording. Backseat Confidential, which would eventually become Beaten Around the Bush. So there's a lot of really cool recordings on here from these early iterations of classic songs that I dig quite a bit. And so, I'd recommend both of these albums, both these box sets, I should say, for any AC/DC fan. 2 great releases that I kind of always thought went hand in hand with one another. Next to number 6, I'm going to go with Music Bank by Alice in Chains, released in 1999 during a time when the band couldn't tour due to Lane Staley's addiction issues. This 4-disc box set here features, the 2 final songs recorded with Lane prior to his passing 2002, recorded during the sessions here for Music Bank, those of course being Died and Get Born Again, also featuring official releases for Fear the Voices from the Dirt sessions and Lying Season as well. And it also includes demos that were previously unreleased, hit singles, remixes, and alternative versions of classic tracks. I actually like the Tattoo of Pain version of, again, I think it sounds pretty cool, though I know a lot of people don't like it. But overall, this is a fantastic collection of the best Alice material up to that time. I think it really does a fantastic job of really bookending the Lane era of the band. Like I said, he would pass away in 2002, just a few years after the release of Music Bank. Top 5 now, I'm going to go with Mind Games, the Deluxe Ultimate Edition by John Lennon. recently picked this one up. It's a new release, and I love it a lot, and like I've said in the past on the channel, there aren't a lot of album reissues that I purchase these days. First and foremost, they have to be appropriately priced, which many are not, to say the least. And secondly, they have to offer more than just the album I already own from a musical standpoint. And thankfully, the Mind Games Ultimate Edition checks both of those boxes, really exploring this album from every possible, viewpoint here, which I really enjoyed, from the Ultimate Mix to the Elemental Mix, the Elements Mix, and then the Raw Studio Mix, which showcase multiple facets of what make this album great. Not to mention, you have some of the studio outtakes on another disc, which is really cool, kind of to hear the, Lennon's creative process, kind of, going through the motions of making a record, when you hear John Lennon in the background, that's really cool to me. And I love the rematch they did on here, really fixing all the production woes that the original had. Mind Games in general is a really underrated Lennon solo album here, and the Lennon estate continue to do an awesome job with these Ultimate Edition box sets. Another new release from 2024, finally, Black Sabbath got around to releasing the Tony Martin era box set, Anno Domini, finally giving, more exposure to the Martin era of Sabbath, which is very underrated, including, newly remastered versions of Headless Cross, Tear, and Cross Purposes, plus a new version of Forbidden that guitarist Tony Iommi remixed specially for the collection here. First off, it's great to have all four of these albums back into print. The Tony Martin era, like I said, very overlooked period in the band's history, and, tracking down some of the originals on CD was very difficult. As a matter of fact, at the time this was released, I didn't have a copy of the original Forbidden, which, probably my least favorite Black Sabbath record because of the production, so I really wasn't in a rush to find it anyway. But, on top of that, Tony Iommi did a fantastic job fixing this record here, which, I really didn't enjoy, mainly because of the production. But that's not a problem anymore. It's still not a great record, but the 2024 mix is a massive improvement from the original. The sound is much better here, so Tony Iommi did a fantastic job of fixing this up, and so Forbidden now is not nearly as bad as it used to be, But all four albums, they sound great here, and I think it's just great that the Tony Martin era finally gets the attention and recognition it deserves from the band. Tony did an amazing job with the group, during the 90s, during a time when I think without Tony Martin in the group, they probably would have just collapsed. He was kind of the glue that kept them together there, in the post-Dio, post-Ozzy years, and so these albums now finally sound full and complete and are easy to find, not just, in physical copies, but also on streaming services. So hopefully now more people can finally hear them, and, the casual Black Sabbath fan can be exposed to the Tony Martin era and some really great albums there that never get talked about. Believe it or not, there actually was a time when Kiss released cool box sets that didn't cost $1,000. And no, that's not hyperbole. Go check it out. The new Destroyer Anniversary Deluxe reissue is going for $940. That's ridiculous. But back in 2001, things were much different. In fact, Kiss released their greatest box set, simply titled The Box Set, which was great for what you were getting. I believe at the time of its release, it only sold for about $60, and then my copy was signed later on by Gene and Paul. But, back in 2001, what you were getting here for that price was a 5-CD collection of recordings from the Kiss archives, including 30 previously unreleased demos, outtakes, and live recordings. And among those tracks are some really cool Wicked Lester recordings, demos from the 4 solo albums as well. And It's My Life, one of the best hidden gems in their catalog from the Psycho Circus sessions that absolutely should have made it onto the main record. But, crazy to think, with the box set here, Kiss actually used to be good at this whole box set thing. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with Eddie's Archive by Iron Maiden, and this is actually a first edition of Eddie's Archive. You can tell by the blue inlay. Subsequent versions would have a red inlay on the inside. Also, you can check, too, if your family tree is numbered there. That's also an indication that it's a first edition along with the blue interior tray. But, I love the metal packaging on here. It's really cool. But what really puts it over the top for me is the music. It includes 3 double discs on here. You have 2 compilations and 1 live album. First and foremost, Beast over Hammersmith. Fantastic show here from the Beast on the Road tour in 1982. Bruce was new in the band here, and this has, in my opinion, the best version of Hallowed Be Thy Name that's out there. So just a fantastic concert here from, young prime Iron Maiden on the Number of the Beast tour. Also, you have the BBC Archives. This is a fantastic collection of tracks recorded by the BBC from 1979 to 1988. And then last but not least, Best of the B-Sides here. Great collection of B-Sides, and especially covers of tracks like Cross-Eyed Mary, Communication Breakdown, Dr. Doctor, My Generation, and more. So this entire box set is awesome. I think it's got a great inventory of live stuff, and so I really enjoy that from Iron Maiden. Of course, the packaging is a plus, but again, like I was saying, what I look for is, in a box set is, what the music includes. And so to have a classic live album, a great collection of B-Sides, that, unless you had all the singles and stuff, were hard to, put together. And also, of course, the BBC recordings, it makes for a great box set of material that any Iron Maiden fan would love to own. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have The Life and Crimes of Alice Cooper. I actually got this as a gift last year, which was cool because I had been looking for it on my own for a really long time, especially at first edition, which this one is. And you can tell if your copy is also a first edition by seeing if Alice's face is pressed up against the grating here. Other versions do not have this grating. You can just see his face. So it's kind of obstructed here, right? Like he's behind bars, which is kind of cool. That's how you check if yours is a first edition. But it's a 4 CD set that includes select tracks from every studio album released until then, plus many B-sides, unreleased songs, and other rarities. Some of the super rare tracks include material from the original Cooper Band from 1965 and 1967 when they went under the names The Spiders and the Nazz. You have a demo of Respect for the Sleepers from 1973, Because with the Bee Gees from the Sgt. Pepper soundtrack, and 2 recordings from the Monster Dog soundtrack, which that movie is a cult classic featuring Alice pursuing acting, with his newfound sobriety during his hiatus in the mid-80s, and also so much more here in this box set, something from every album up until its release date here in 1999. It's just jam-packed with cool stuff here for Alice Cooper nerds like myself, so very happy to finally own it. So that wraps up this video here, sharing with you guys my top 8 favorite box sets in my collection across rock and metal. And see, not all box sets are bad, right? Just a lot of the modern day reissues and stuff they're putting out now is what I can't stand. But there are some really good box sets out there. I do have, a handful that I really enjoy, and these are at the top of the list. You can see my picks right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and let me know down in the comment section below what are some of your favorite box sets of all time. I definitely want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.